Welcome to Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network for the second time today. Casey Porter here. Hey, so glad to be here with you talking about a big Dodgers win today. As you see on your screen, the face of Austin Brubaker. He has been very busy today, and he has a sweet lid on top of his head today. That is a Driller's hat. That's sweet, Austin.
Yeah, no, I'm changing it up a little bit. Normally, I wear the Great Lakes Loons apparel, kind of show off what they have. Today, because the Tulsa Drillers game is on tonight and because the Loons lost earlier, I thought I might switch it up a little bit, go with the Tulsa Drillers hat for a Jared Karros start in Tulsa tonight. So happy to be here. It's been a while since I've been a little bit inconsistent recently with stuff going on in life. But I'm more than happy to be here and really excited with the Dodgers finishing off the series against the New York Mets with a win and getting that sweep as they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and what's up with the Loons, man? Got to ask you. Of course, you see it every day.
I know. So just a little bit of insight into what had gone on beforehand in case you aren't familiar. Last week was an incredible week for the Loons. They are in a stretch getting it. There's now 19 games to go left in the first half. They're in a deep run trying to push for a playoff spot. And last week they had 3 walk-off wins against the Beloit Sky Carp and then finish it off with a really good victory on Sunday. Feeling really good. Headed out to Grand Rapids, Michigan to play the West Michigan Whitecaps. Offense just hasn't shown up the first 2 games. They didn't score a single run on Tuesday, which I was at that game on Tuesday. They didn't score a run during the day game today. A little bit disappointing in pitching. Actually had showed up a little bit. Some unlucky hits and stuff. Some good batted ball for West Michigan. Just haven't been able to put together some at bats. So right now the Loons are down 2 games in their race. Still not over. Still going to be pulling for them. I'll be at the game tomorrow and on Friday. But we'll see what happens with the Loons going forward.
Oh, how sweep it is for the Dodgers, man. It was about 24 hours ago to where it was like the 8th inning, and you're thinking, dang, man, about to lose a 6th game in a row. And then all of a sudden you bring out the small ball. By the way, got a chance to listen to Miguel Rojas and his interview, post-game interview today. And it was fantastic how he talked about, hey, you know, we can't always rely on we can't always rely on Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and then ShoheiOhtani home runs or WillSmith home runs. Sometimes you got to look at the other parts of the game, and we need to execute that. He mentioned the Chris Taylor bunt yesterday. Of course, Miguel Rojas had 4 hits today. The bottom of the lineup was fantastic. Yesterday we talked about it was an old school great day of baseball for the Dodgers. Today again, hey, you hit 4 home runs. Yes, you did hit the long ball, but whenever you add up all the hits together, okay, all of them together, the average launch angle today for the Dodgers hits was just 15 degrees. Okay, 14 degrees is the cutoff for a line drive. So you're talking almost an average of ground ball launch angles for the Dodgers in a 4 home run day. I say all that just to say that shows you the Dodgers are in an approach right now where they're just trying to hit the ball hard, and home runs sometimes happen.
Yeah, that's what you have to do at times. And the Dodgers coming into the series, let's be honest, they were in a funk offensively, and we were concerned a lot about the Dodgers, what they were going to do, the approach that they had going into the plate. This series, they took a little bit of a different old school approach, as you mentioned, working on hitting the ball hard, getting some of those line drives. Line drives are actually what you're aiming for if you are a hitter, because that has the highest probability of being base hits. I know home runs are fun, and there has to be a place for them in the game. But sometimes in order to get out of a funk, you have to do things a little bit different, shake things up, get a little bit of that good feeling, get a little bit of production from the bottom of your lineup. And we've seen that over the past couple of games from some guys that are, you might say, have been struggling recently. A guy like Miguel Rojas had 4 hits today. That was great to see for him. And some of the other guys at the bottom of the order. Jason Hayward had a good game coming into the game today. A lot of different guys contributing, being effective, and working a little bit at that old school, hit the ball hard, and good things will happen. And right now, or at least in this series, good things happen to the Dodgers, and I think they might be starting to click a little bit. And then you also put in those home runs out there. That's just going to make the run production, when you combine that with a lot of the old school, smart, fundamental baseball approaches, that's when your offense is going to be firing at all cylinders.
You got a sweet lid on and a sweet hoodie today, right?
Oh, I know. I got my Dodgers Daily hoodie on right now. It's a pretty good night.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Okay, I was listening to the broadcast, and I heard this stat that stuck out to me. In the last 3 days, the 3 games, the bottom of the lineup has been on base 21 times. That is the key to the Dodgers puzzle. Because, hey, just go back and listen to Miguel Rojas' post-game interview. He said it. He said, hey, we had flashbacks to the postseason last year to where our big 3, big 4 weren't hitting, and we were like, well, then how do we score runs? And we couldn't. We just weren't in a position to where we could. So he mentioned all the other guys, which is exactly what Coach Holt and I talked about this morning, need to figure out how to play offense, how to get on base, maybe concentrate on the smaller parts of the game, hitting the ball the other way, bunting, whatever you have to do. In the Dodgers, by the way, Miguel Vargas squared around for another first and third bunt, which is, we call it the best play in baseball, and then got him a nice hit to right field. So he kind of let the cat out of the bag there, I thought Miguel Rojas did, in the sense that, hey, he mentioned playoffs and last year, and we are making adjustments to make sure we are a more complete offense to make sure what happened last year doesn't happen this year.
Yeah, that's good to hear. One, that they're able to know that those adjustments have to be made. There's that recognition of that. And also that the postseason very much is on their mind, and they're trying to figure out what is going to be the best approach for them going forward as they try to make it to the postseason. That is the goal for the Dodgers. Their standard is not going to be decided during the regular season. It's going to be decided at the postseason, whether this team is going to have a successful season or not. For the Dodgers, they have to find unique ways with the bottom half of their lineup to get on base and extend innings for Mookie Betts, for Shohei Ohtani.
Or just to take
Freeland.
Pressure off of them, not even just
Absolutely.
to turn the lineup over. There has to be times where Mookie Betts feels like, I don't have to go 3 for 3 for this team to win.
Yes.
Same with Shohei Ohtani and same with Freddie Freeman. They also have to feel like, hey, not a night off, don't get me wrong, but they shouldn't have to feel like they have to go 3 for 3 every night for this team to win, right?
Yeah, no, that is absolutely right. And finding unique ways to scrap together some hits, maybe the occasional home run, but that smart fundamental baseball from the bottom of your lineup, playing smart, I think is going to allow this lineup to perform at its absolute best, assuming that the top part of the lineup is still going to be able to produce. And even if it doesn't, still having that productive bottom of the order that is at least playing gritty, smart baseball that teams aren't going to want to face, I think is going to be really important for the Dodgers going forward. And I'm glad to see that they have that in mind and that they're trying different approaches and different ways to win when the top part of your lineup is going to work. You know, in a small sample size in the postseason, you don't know who's going to be hot and who's going to be not. And sometimes your top of your lineup is not going to be hot, which means you need to find ways to win with the bottom half. And unfortunately for the Dodgers in past years, the top half of their lineup wasn't performing in the playoffs. They're trying to find different ways to fix that, to find ways to lengthen the lineup to where 1 through 9, there's not an easy out anywhere, and any single one of those guys can go and be productive to where, man, if you get into a postseason series, there's no way that all 9 of those guys are going to go cold.
Yeah, absolutely. Where you can still score 4, 5, 6 runs and win a game even whenever you're not maybe at the absolute. That's been my theme for this team all year is, hey, I know that this team's capable of scoring 12 runs and hitting 4 or 5 home runs like they did today. I want to know if this team can win a playoff series at their worst, right? I mean, I want to know what the worst case scenario is going to look like in the playoffs. That's what's going to ease my nerves as far as knowing that the floor of what this unit is capable of. And if you go back to any of our shows last year, I'm just telling you, man, Mickey Rowe's a stud. I love Mickey Rowe. Even last year when he wasn't hitting the ball, I'm telling you, every time I had a chance to talk about him, It was like, I love this guy. He's a leader. I love the way he plays. I love his intensity. I love his fire. I love everything about him. And listening to him talk after the game, talking about, hey, we can't always rely on our big three. And then also talking about, well, I realized if I'm not going to play every day, I've got to figure out a way to stay sharp. So whenever I do play, then I can stay productive. And then I've just got to figure out what my role is on the team and do what my role is the best. Miggy Rowe, I'm just telling you, man, he is an absolute stud. Now, I'm not saying he's like the greatest offensive player of all time, and I'm not saying he's the greatest shortstop of all time. But it's hard to understate what a guy like Miguel Rojas, with his veteran leadership, that's willing to do whatever it takes to help the team win. It's hard to overstate what that means to a team.
Yeah, he has that veteran leadership that is so valuable to a team. He also brings defensive consistency at the position, defensive excellence at the position at times. And with his profile of the bat, he's very much an older school type of player where it's very low strikeouts. And with that approach, you're going to get a lot of balls that are put in play, a little bit more of a consistent offensive approach, even if the offensive upside isn't at the extreme level with Miggy Rojas. He absolutely has a place on this team. And throughout the course of the season, when he's stepped up, when he's been able to come in, he's made an impact. And I think he's going to have an important role on this Dodgers team for the next months until the postseason comes around. He has cemented himself on this roster for the Dodgers and plays a very crucial role, that veteran leadership, consistent type of player.
You know how big of a chance I've wanted to give Gavin Lux. Mm-hmm. You also know how big I am on internal competitions within a team element. Whenever you have internal competitions, even between veterans, for certain spots within a team element, that's when a team's at its best. When you have Gavin Lux and Miguel Rojas, Miguel Vargas, Andy Pages, Jason Hayward, to an extent, Kike Hernandez. When you have like 5 guys competing for 2 or 3 spots, that they're going to play their ass off, right? They're going to be hungry. I use the term hungry. You're going to see a hungry group of guys because every one of them wants to be the everyday starter. And when you see that, that's whenever, because your great players, they're there every day, right? I mean, they're the ones who get the runway. Hey, it's all right, dude. It's 500 at bats. Just relax. But it's your auxiliary players is where you create all of your competitions within the team element, and then you keep those guys hungry. I saw that today. That was exciting.
Yeah, no, that is really exciting. Having that good, healthy competition for these guys for playing time, fighting for their careers in a good, healthy environment where guys are pulling for each other, where guys are working together for the exact same goal is going to allow for the most possible success. So we're big fans still of Gavin Lux, big fans of all of these young guys as they're coming up and
bigger
trying to get
fans of the Dodgers.
Yeah, absolutely. Bigger fans of the Dodgers, of course. But as these guys are coming up, trying to get adapted and trying to help this Dodgers team win, I know it's been a little bit of a struggle for a lot of different guys on this lineup. They're fighting, they're competing, and ultimately the Dodgers are going to make the best decision as far as what is best for the team, and that is something that you have to trust with the Dodgers.
That is one thing I have been really, really, really hoping for. And I think asking for is probably the wrong way to put it. But hey, we know, like I said just a second ago, I know the ShoheiOhtanis, the Mookie Betts, the Freddie Freemans, the WillSmiths, all those guys, they're in there. They're 5 or 6 guys. For all the rest of them, what I've been asking for is open competition, man. Whoever is the freaking best, put his ass out there, right? And let's see who the best player is, whoever that may be. Now, there are limitations to that, meaning you can't, you've got to give some people some runway to get comfortable to actually see how good they are. I understand that, but I kind of like how these competitions are starting to play out. I would like to see more of it from the bullpen. It just feels like bullpen arms are being anointed spots. Like, oh, we're just going to put you in this spot because you have veteran, because you've been in the major leagues, that kind of deal. Versus, hey, you've earned this chance. You've been the better pitcher that we've seen either with Oklahoma City or the time that you've been up in the major leagues. Since you've been the better guy, you're the one who gets the innings, right? So I think you're starting to see it with the position players in the 3 or 4 spots that are still left. I would really like to see the Dodgers have more of a competition in terms of whoever produces in the bullpen, that's who gets the innings. I think at that point, you get that competition there too, and I think that would help.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Dodgers, as they're working on getting guys healthy from the bullpen coming back. When you know about Evan Phillips hopefully coming back this weekend, as guys get more healthy, there's still opportunities and there's still roles in this bullpen for guys to compete, for guys to go out there and try to prove themselves in this bullpen as it starts to take a little bit shape or at least the idea of what the bullpen is going to look like for the postseason starts to take shape. It's going to be interesting to see what the Dodgers do, and hopefully they're able to have good, healthy competition and give opportunities to the guys who are best succeeding, especially in an area like the bullpen, which is most volatile, in which it's hard to predict. Sometimes getting the guy who is having the most success can be the best thing that you can do for the Dodgers, even if maybe some of the underlying numbers aren't necessarily the best. Bullpen is definitely one of those areas that the Dodgers are going to keep an eye on, and they're going to address over the course of the next couple months.
Daniel Berry, Sports Highlight. Good evening, Craig. Good evening to you, Jerry Hunter. Hey, Casey, great team win. Totally agree with you there. What's up to you, Kenny? Hey, thank you so much for joining. Johnny Owen, Casey Ramirez, and Hernandez. They haven't done as well. Yeah, obviously, Yohan Ramirez did a little bit better today. His first outing was tough, and then Eliezer Hernandez did not have as good of a day. Jerry Hunter, hopefully keep it up at Rockies. Nando 390, Dave Roberts, seen hugging Mets players. Yeah, that was, and then Yohan Ramirez, you can remember that. But Norm Lee, honestly, a truer Ted Norm Lee is saying that the Dodgers, yeah, this is a good weekend, but it was the Mets. I'll say this, and this is always my statement to teams or whatever, the only team that you can play is the team that was in front of you that day. So don't ever apologize for beating another team that's not good or is struggling. That's their problem and not yours. So all the Dodgers could do is beat the Mets, play well, and that's exactly what they did. But normally he's saying, honestly, a truer test of whether this lineup needs a significant change will be in about a week when they face the Yankees, because the Mets pitching, especially the bullpen, is not very good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can't really control who you are facing. That gets predetermined going into the season. But the Dodgers did perform against the competition that was put in front of them. That is something that they were struggling to do in the previous series against Cincinnati. So it was great to see the Dodgers go out there, have a bounce back. Obviously, you want to see how they do against a little bit better competition, or at least competition that is performing a little bit better. I think that's going to be a little bit of a better test as we get further and further along into the season. We're starting to get a really decent sample size and a little bit pretty good, decent idea of how the season going to shape up, which means decisions are going to be starting to be made for the Dodgers. And I think the good test with the Yankees coming up in about a week or so is going to be a really good test for the Dodgers, for this lineup, for this pitching staff, and a really good measuring bar, because the Yankees are a very good club in the American League.
So good evening, Jerry Hunter. Good evening, Nando 390. Good evening, Norm Lee. Thank you so much for joining. Hepatitis. See you later. Dodgers lineup set to face Jared Jones and Paul Skeens in that Pittsburgh series. Yeah, lots of good pitching. And hey, I said it, and I think you've seen this in this Mets series. The better that the Giants are, the more they nip at the Dodgers' heels, the more the Dodgers have to get out of process mode and stay in results mode. If you listen to Dave Roberts talk today, he used the word results like 8 times, right? And that's a great thing if you're the Dodgers, because the Dodgers love to go process mode. They love to go big picture mode. They love to set everything up for like 3 months from now, like the James Paxton thing that we're going to talk about today. That one totally made sense to me, but we'll get into that here in a minute. So I've said it. It's going to, if the Dodgers are any good, if the Giants are going to nip at their heels like they've been doing as of late, that's going to make the Dodgers hungry to play better. And so I think that's going to bring out a better version of the Dodgers. And I think the Dodgers are the best team. So if we get the best version of the Dodgers, it does not matter what anybody else is doing. And so I think the more competition they have, the better off they are. That reminds me of the Paul Skeens and the pitchers the Dodgers are going to see at the Pittsburgh Pirates. I hope the Dodgers see the best of everything that everybody has just to keep them sharp, right?
They're going to have to see those types of arms, even if the Pittsburgh Pirates aren't going to be the team that they're going to be facing in the playoffs. They're going to be facing and put up against some really good pitching, the best that teams have in the postseason. You want them to have those types of tests during the regular season as well. It'd be nice if it was a cupcake after cupcake throughout the regular season, but then you're not prepared for the postseason. Going up against these two young, really talented pitchers for the Pirates. I know all the buzz, Paul Skeens, really, it absolutely is there and absolutely well-deserved. It's going to be great for the Dodgers to go up against them, go up against elite velocity against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and try to find ways to scrap across because they're going to be facing that type of velocity in the postseason. You're going to be facing up against elite pitchers during the postseason. Going to be a really good test for the Dodgers to see how they do against them.
I don't know how that's going to end up results-wise, but I can just tell you Paul Skeens legit. There's no doubt about that. I love that guy. He is really, really good. Hey, man, we have an awesome crowd. I know there's like 17 million different streams going on, but to be honest with you, hey, we didn't want to wait too long until after the game, so we're like, hey, we're going to throw it out there and see if it bakes. If we get some people to show up, then we get some people to show up. If not, this show will be archived and people can go back and watch later. So super excited. Hey, Songjin Kim, good morning from South Korea. Good morning to yourself, and thank you so much for joining. And by the way, Yeonil Choi, I know you mentioned Yeonil Choi. He is probably the biggest part of our Oklahoma City part of the Down on the Farm tonight. So definitely stick around. I forgot to mention, we have a very, very, very exciting Down on the Farm. There's been periods this year where we've been heavier with Rancho and Great Lakes, like Josue de Paula and Kenny George and maybe a Peyton Martin, that kind of deal. And then there's been periods where we've been heavier, like last time with Oklahoma City. Well, this one's going to be a little bit heavier with Tulsa because check this out. We have Dalton Rushing, we have Diego Cartaya, we have Jose Ramos on the docket for the Tulsa Drillers part of the Down on the Farm tonight. Oklahoma City, we have Yeonil Choi, the 2021 Minor League Pitcher of the Year. So we have a great Down on the Farm tonight. And then also, I think we're also going to talk about Peyton Martin with the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. And it is going to be, kind of like in school, you go to that mystery meat, Austin, and that's what they put on the menu that day. That's what we have for the Great Lakes Loons right now because they haven't played very good the last 2 days. So we're going to show up and we're going to say, Austin, what do you got? And you're going to bring it. You're going to unveil what the mystery meat's going to be tonight for the Great Lakes Loons, right?
Oh, I'll be looking. I'm still going to be looking for the positives in a lot of the performances that were had over the past couple of days, even though it was disappointing results. I will still find a way I'll put something together.
That's one of those. It's funny because, you're sitting there, you go, are we ever going to score again? I mean, there's times in baseball where, like, you kind of start feeling sorry for yourself, and you're like, it's just so easy to do, and you're like, we ever going to score again? And your assistant goes, oh, yeah, we'll score again. It's going to be like next Tuesday before it happens, but we're definitely going to score again sometime this year.
Oh, with all the runs that were produced during the series in Beloit, I think that we needed a little bit of extended rest from doing the funky feather too many times. Our arms were getting a little bit tired. So hopefully we'll get back to that tomorrow night.
So Songjin Kim, make sure and stay tuned because we have Yeonil Choi as part of our Oklahoma City section today. Roy Estrada, good evening. Thank you so much for joining. Sammy Boy Smith, what is up? Thank you so much for joining. Jerry Hunter, it's always great whenever you join Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Okay, he brings us into our next topic. Okay, James Paxton, he only went 3 innings today. That had nothing to do with injury. So here's what it is. The Dodgers have a day off tomorrow. They had a very rested bullpen, and we've talked about the Dodgers have been very creative and getting their pitchers extra days rest. Well, Paxton was on 4 days rest. which is normal, but just to play the long run game, they limited him to, I believe it was 60 pitch or however many it was, 3 innings. This was a organizational decision to take a load off of his arm because they had a bullpen ready to go, off day, all of that. And so this had nothing to do with injury. I'll say this, just watching James Paxton react in the dugout, okay, whenever they told him, of course, they have all these meetings beforehand, to know that you're a veteran, and hey, these veterans, especially now, you know this better than I do, Austin, because you crunch the numbers a lot more than I do and are better at it. It's tougher now than ever to get a job in the major leagues or in professional baseball at all as an older guy, right? So as an older guy like James Paxton, to say, you know what, guys, I got a chance to go out and get a dub, right, to put that on my docket. And as an organization, you're taking that chance away from me by not allowing me to go 5 innings. There are a lot of guys in this game that would say, screw you, I'm not doing that. I'm going 5 innings, and I'm not throwing 3 innings just because you tell me, right? James Paxton handled it with grace. He handled it with, hey, whatever the team needs. I don't necessarily agree with it, but if this is what you tell me my job and my role is tonight, if you're telling me this is best for the team, then okay, whatever. I was super, super impressed with the way that he handled that, because I'm just telling you, as an older veteran, taking a dub away from the guy, that's really kind of not cool, and he handled it really well.
He is an absolute professional, and James Paxton handled it really well. I think the idea of keeping him well rested, especially with his past concerns, with some of the past injuries that he's dealt with, wanting to keep a guy that has performed well like James Paxton, providing innings for the Dodgers, keeping him healthy as long as you possibly can, getting him through the entire season, I think is really important. And as you mentioned, they had a good rested bullpen. You had guys that you could use, that you want to provide innings, you want to provide opportunities to see what they are able to do out of this bullpen. I think it was a good, smart idea for the Dodgers to do this. And with James Paxton, I think he handled it with grace. And I think for future outings that he's had, he's going to have plenty of opportunities to go out there and pitch 5-6 innings, get a W added onto his record. He handled it with grace. This was best for the team. I think this was best for kind of trying to find unique ways to keep their pitching staff as healthy as possible, because let's go back into the offseason. That was a huge concern for the Dodgers, and especially with how many injuries they've had to their pitching staff throughout the course of the season. You want to keep these guys as healthy as possible. And so with James Paxton, handled it with grace. He's going to get plenty of more opportunities for the Dodgers, and I'm excited that the Dodgers got a win. He pitched pretty well today.
Because, see, here's what a lot of these veterans do. They like to come to the Dodgers. They like to sign a 1-year contract. They like to get that 1 year like a Tyler Anderson where they kick ass, right? And then they go get their bag. And they've used it, and the Dodgers end up without a World Series championship, and the Dodgers really just end up getting used, right? Like J.D. Martinez last year. And they kind of come out with it with nothing because you played them over maybe a younger guy in their system that could have used the reps and all that. And then this veteran comes in, does great, and then ends up signing a contract somewhere else and making a whole lot of money, and you're left with that hole in your roster and no World Series championship, right? So that just was an indication to me that James Paxton came to the Dodgers not to just use the Dodgers for a 1-year capitalization type thing to go get his bag. He came to the Dodgers to win a World Series this year, and that's the only thing on his mind. That's how I took that interaction. Am I looking too much into it?
I don't think so. No, I think that just speaks to the character and the type of person that James Paxton is. A little bit of that unselfishness as a player, which you want from a team. You want them to be an unselfish team fighting for the exact same goal, which is to win the World Series. And if you come to the Dodgers, not only do you get surrounded by some of the best coaches in the world, not only do you want to improve your stock, the goal also is to win a World Series, and I think that is important to keep in mind, and I think this is good, James Paxton, for this season to try to keep him as healthy as possible, because if he wants to gain some value going into the next offseason, He needs to be healthy throughout the entire season. That is one of the best values that you can have as a player, especially as a starting pitcher, is availability. And so far, James Paxton has been available. He's been healthy. Want to keep it that way if you are the Dodgers and if you're James Paxton.
Jerry Hunter looks like Vesia has got the pitch clock figured out. He struggled last year with it. Yeah, since last July, he has been an absolute elite pitcher, relief pitcher, not just left-handed, but of any hand either way. Normally, a bit of relief to see Ohtani go oppo yard ever since Roberts talked to him. He seems overly selective or overthinking and watching fastball center cut go by. Yeah, ShoheiOhtani, whenever he's just in reaction mode, kind of where James Outman needs to get back to. I relate it to defense. It's like in football, it's like you get back to just playing your base defense. You're not running a bunch of exotic blitzes, and you're just reading your keys and running the ball and playing fast again, right? That's when ShoheiOhtani is at his best, no doubt. Sammy Boy Smith says Vesia is a one-half pitcher. Hopefully he continues his success second half. He was very good the second half. That would be the half that you were talking about, Sammy Boy Smith. And yes, Songjung Kim, Yunel Choy recorded a record of 20 strikeouts and 8 walks of 27.1 innings in May with 3 wins and 1 loss. Can he make his debut with the Dodgers this season? He's bounced back and forth between AA and AAA. Hey, Yunel Choy has done a really good job. It would be of course, never say never, and I've been wrong many times before about these Dodgers transactions, right? And I will be wrong many times in the future. Been right a lot too, but been wrong too. But I would have to say for Yunel Choy to actually make his major league debut this year, it probably would be an upset, I think, to say the least. Wouldn't you agree, Austin?
I would probably agree, just because he's not on the 40-man roster. He did spend last season at High A Great Lakes. Actually had a chance to interact with him quite a bit. I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but I remember a time in Lansing before the game, and Choy was coming back to the dugout. I usually sit over by the Loons dugout before the game, and he looks at me kind of like sniffing his nose a little bit. Like, do you smell something? I'm like, what are you talking about, Choy? And he's like, I smell a win. And then walked right straight into the dugout. And the Loons did end up winning that night. And that's one of those stories I remember about Choy. And so going into the season, I was expecting him to get some decent run time at the AA Tulsa level, but because of some inconsistencies and the back and forth with a lot of the pitchers at Oklahoma City and with some of the performances that Yunel Choy has had, he has had the opportunity to go with Tulsa and Oklahoma City and get some of those starts. And with Oklahoma City, you're one step away from getting up to the Dodgers. I just don't know if the Dodgers are going to make that call quite yet. I think there's a lot of hurdles that have to be overcome, and especially with Yunel Choy being primarily a starting pitcher. Right now, the starting pitcher, there's not a whole lot of room for them. So Yunel Choy, very talented pitcher. I expect him to make his major league debut at some point. I just don't know if it's going to be for the Dodgers and this season.
Yeah, the Dodgers are getting ready to subtract pitchers, not add. Whenever they add back Bobby Miller, Evan Phillips, eventually Clayton Kershaw, who's throwing off the mound now. Hey, we saw Dustin May throw a bullpen the other day. So the odds are long for Yunel Choy, but hey, if you're him, the only thing you can do is keep throwing as well as he has been, and then just wait for opportunity. So hey, that is a great question, Songjung Kim. So thank you so much for asking. Daniel Berry Sports Highlight says Dodgers better sweep Colorado. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's baseball, though, the most unpredictable game ever invented, right, Austin?
It absolutely is, and that is why even when you're a series against a team that's struggling like the Mets, you just want to go out there and win some games. And if you go and sweep them out, obviously you expect that, you want that going forward, but you should also celebrate that, because the game of baseball is so unpredictable. It is a hard, tough game to play, and going out there and winning against teams, even struggling teams, should be something that you go out and do and perform. So hopefully they have a good series. I'll say hopefully they win the series against Colorado, hopefully win the first couple of games, and then set it up to where you can sweep them.
Yeah, Roy Estrada's making a great point here. Roy always brings his A game. Hey, by the way, want to remind you, if you have not done so, leave a like, leave a comment, not just a comment in this chat, but also underneath the video itself. That way it'll get suggested after it archives a little bit more. If you're not a subscriber yet, go hit that subscribe button. Share this channel out, share this feed out, share everything out on your social medias. That way Dodgers Daily can keep growing. But Roy Estrada always brings his A game. I wish Miggy Rowe could play every day, but not durable enough. Great glove, injury prone. And I'll tell you another thing. I've said this many times. I think what makes Kike and Miggy Rowe as good as they are, Jason Hayward, you saw this today, is because Doc is able to play them when the matchups are advantageous for them. When you start playing every day, you're not playing based on matchups. Now you have to play even against the bad matchups, and the numbers aren't as good. So I think what makes Miggy Rowe as good as he's been is the fact that he's been playing in advantageous matchups, and I think the Dodgers need to continue with that type of playing time for him.
Yeah, I think Doc does a really good job trying to set these guys up for the best possible success that they could have with certain matchups, and that is taking the form of a lot of platoon type roles or different matchups, different mixed playing time, especially with the bottom of the lineup. And for a guy like Miggy Rowe, he's not going to go out there and play 162 games anymore. You want him to be healthy. You want him to be at his best, and at his best right now is going to be a little bit more limited playing time. Same with some of the other veteran type pieces that have performed in the past and still are really good players. You want to put them in the best possible position to where you can get the most out of them and the most efficiency out of these players too. And I think that is where limited type roles come into play. Obviously, with Kike Hernandez right now with the Max Muncy injuries, having to step up and play a little bit more of an more everyday-ish type of role. But for a lot of these guys, they're able to put these guys in when it is best matchups for them. And I think that allows them to be the most effective, even if platooning is not your favorite thing in the world, or some of these limited matchups are not the favorite thing in the world, especially for these veteran type guys, it can be really effective. And we saw that especially last year with Jason Hayward going up a lot against right-handed pitching.
Nando 390 says Lux will be traded. Don't disagree with that, but I can tell you they're not going to trade Lux for Miggy Rowe. And what I mean is they're not going to trade Lux to say that Miggy Rowe is going to be the shortstop, move Mookie to second base. The only way Gavin Lux is not in the equation for the Dodgers is if they go get Willy Adames or Bo Bichette. It's not going to be because we think Miggy Rowe is the answer.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely right. I think Miggy Rowe is going to play an important role, but he's not going to be playing an everyday type role. So this idea that Miggy Rowe can play short and Mookie Betts can play second base every single day, perhaps you could split some time with Miggy Rowe and Gavin Lux as they're doing right now. But as far as a Gavin Lux type of trade, that has to come with some sort of expectation that you're getting a good, solid, almost everyday type player at the shortstop position. And those types of players are very limited at this point. And especially with Gavin Lux, he has some minor league options. The Dodgers do have some flexibility. They do have some play with Gavin Lux, and they also want to maximize the value if they were to trade a Gavin Lux. Trade value for Gavin Lux, at least at this point, still has some years of control, but with him struggling a little bit, is this the best time to maximize the value that you have out of him through some type of trade, or what is the best thing for the Dodgers? A lot of different questions to ask. So the immediate thing of saying go ahead and trade Gavin Lux, obviously if the Dodgers don't have a role for Gavin Lux going forward and they don't envision a role for Gavin Lux in the future going forward, then perhaps that is something that the Dodgers should consider. And I'm not saying the Dodgers shouldn't consider this. Obviously, you want to maximize and make this the most airtight proof team that you possibly can. It's been about 2 months or so. It's been 2 months into the season. Dodgers are starting to make some decisions, but for the shortstop and for that middle infield, options are very limited right now, especially with the Brewers, and very expensive. If you think it's expensive, wait until they try to make a trade with the Dodgers, who spent how much during the offseason, who teams know about. There's going to be a little bit of a tax even for the Dodgers. So it's going to be very difficult to get a lot of these guys. Not saying that it's going to be impossible or that the Dodgers won't do it, but especially with the Brewers being competitive, and there's a good chance that they'll keep around a Willy Adames, that even limits some of the options just further. We're going to have to wait and see what the Dodgers are able to do going forward. I think they are likely at this point going to do something. I just don't know if Mookie Betts, they want, in order to keep him at his absolute best, going to keep him at the shortstop position full time. We'll have to wait and see, though. That is what for this next month or so to play out for the Dodgers. We're going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, if it's not Gavin Lux, it's going to be somebody that's not on the club right now. I don't think it's going to be Gavin Lux. You're gonna subtract Gavin Lux and just be good with what you have on the roster at that point. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to have to add a Bo Bichette, a Willy Adames, somebody like that to your roster to remove Gavin Lux at that point. So that's going to be interesting to see. This is also why we said so many times in the offseason, this made so much sense to move Mookie Betts to the infield. So for those of you who are saying, move Mookie Betts to the outfield, well, you're figuring out why this was such a smart move not to do that, because it's a lot easier, and I love Teoscar Hernandez. We've been bragging on him since the Dodgers got him. He's a lot easier to go get as an outfielder than to go get that same type of offensive player as a middle infielder, right?
Yes.
Middle infielders with Teoscar Hernandez's offensive profiles just don't exist in a world that the Dodgers can afford right now. So that's why it made sense to move Mookie Betts to the infield, because now you can go get an outfielder like Teoscar Hernandez. Now you have every position set up.
Yeah, and even if you're still concerned about the outfield, I can think of several different players that are or could be available in the outfield that would be decent, solid, consistent offensive players that the Dodgers could target. As far as the infield, as far as those middle infielders that you're looking for, that could be really solid offensive players and are rock solid defensively. Those are a lot harder to find, and those are a lot more expensive because you're not going to usually find these guys on 1-year deals. So for the Dodgers, I think that was smart. I think the initial plan going into the season to try to keep Mookie Betts as healthy as possible and to have an offensive force. Initially, the plan was to play him at second base, or at least that's what the plan was going into spring training. Obviously, things changed. They decided to swap Mookie Betts and Gavin Lux around, and that was the plan going forward. And now you have to adapt going forward if you're the Dodgers, if they want to make a move and they are not comfortable with Miguel Rojas and Gavin Lux kind of pairing up and being that defensive middle part of the position.
What about Rengifo and Pham?
As far as Luis Rengifo out of the Angels, I've taken a look a little bit.
Good luck.
What was that?
Good luck, Angels and Dodgers working together, right?
I know. There's a little bit of that. I'm a little bit more of a fan of like the Taylor Ward and the outfield. I think that a lot of his underlying expected numbers are very much there, and he has been productive at the plate. For a Luis Rengifo, he's been very good at the plate. The numbers absolutely are there. I just don't know if the underlying metrics are going to say for a lot of sustained success for him. So he could be one of those that absolutely keep an eye out for him. I'm not paying a whole lot for him quite yet. And with him, I actually don't even know if he plays a whole lot of shortstop. He'd be more of that second base type role. Yeah. I don't know if you would be looking for more of that shortstop type role, especially if you don't want Mookie Betts playing shortstop every single day. Definitely a good guy to keep an eye out for, producing really, really well this season, having a lot of success. And then a guy like a Tommy Pham, he'd be one of those guys that could be an option. Obviously, talked about him a little bit during the offseason with him being a possibility before the Dodgers signed a Teoscar Hernandez. There's been some concerns expressed during the offseason about him being a clubhouse guy. He's performs really well offensively at the plate. He's been a little bit consistent with the bat. potentially an option. I just don't know if he'd be the best fit for the Dodgers.
Yeah, Rengifo was the trade target whenever the Dodgers tried to trade away Andy Pages.
That is true.
To the Angels. Yeah. Hey, Vargas back to the infield. I would say no, Bogey. I've seen Miguel Vargas. Hey, if you do third base, I've been saying that he is a left side baseball player. There is a difference. I mean, I'm sorry, you just can't say, hey, move from the left side to the right side and all of a sudden be comfortable. Especially, okay, so like if you're going to say, hey, Miguel Vargas, you're starting whatever for the next 3 years, fine. But if you're going to say, hey, go compete for a starting spot at the major league level, then do it while you're playing a position you're totally not comfortable with, okay? That's too much to ask anybody. So I love Miguel Vargas in left field. If you're going to move him to the infield, to me, it would have to be third base. To be fair to him, we have a question from Jay. What have you thought about Miguel Vargas so far? It's very difficult, the position he's been in. He is in survival mode. He does not look comfortable. I know he's gotten a couple of hits. The home run, to be honest with you, looked kind of lucky the other day. I mean, he just swung the bat and he hit it, and it went over the fence. It did not look like a Miguel Vargas confident, hey, I'm getting ready to knock the crap out of this type swing, like I've seen him do a million different times, going all the way back to Tulsa. So I think Miguel Vargas is still I don't see a very confident Miguel Vargas right now, if you will. And I don't mean that to throw shade. I mean that to say, hey, I'm actually very impressed with Miguel Vargas, that with the limited role he's been given, the amount of pressure that he has on him, he's been able to get a couple of hits and survive at the major league level at this point.
Yeah, no, with Miguel Vargas, he produced the numbers at the minor league level to warrant his promotion to the major league level. Absolutely. Walking more than he was striking out, being incredibly productive at the plate at the minor league level. I'm a little bit disappointed that the at-bats have been few and far between for Miguel Vargas, or at least it's been a little bit inconsistent. There was a couple of days stretch when he wasn't getting at-bats or wasn't in the starting position. So with Miguel Vargas, that makes it a little bit tough to make a rock solid evaluation, similar to in the past how we've had a tough time evaluating players when they get inconsistent at bats, especially when they're younger guys who get inconsistent at bats. So Miguel Vargas, I think he is in survival mode because, as it was stated on the broadcast, I think every single pitch matters for Miguel Vargas right now. And I thought he had a really good at bat, even that first at bat when he struck out the ball that was a little bit high out of the zone. I thought Miguel Vargas worked from 0-2 back into that at bat, and I think he's had some good hits at the plate. He's in survival mode right now, and it's really tough to get comfortable at the major league level when every single pitch matters and you're stressing when you're trying to do every single thing right, because even the smallest things could send you back down to Oklahoma City. So I think that makes it really tough. I'd like to see more playing time for Miguel Vargas to get a little bit more of an evaluation for him. He has also made the transition to left field, and so right now I am not on board with moving Miguel Vargas back to the infield. I think moving him to the outfield, then moving him back to the infield, I think could end last year with moving him to second base and then trying to move him back to third base. There's been a lot of positional moving around. I don't want that to be on the mind for Miguel Vargas as much. I want him to be focused on doing little things and trying to be as good of a professional as he can. I think with an additional position change for him, at least to this point, probably would not be the best thing, especially with everything else he is going through in survival mode at the major league level right now.
Yeah, we have a good comment here, a good question from Hep C. Been 5 years since Freeman developed/drafted an elite position player prospect. Is it fair to say Friedman and company struggle with identifying and developing position players? No, they draft elite position players. They develop their players in the minor leagues to elite levels. Where they struggle is incorporating them into the major league level because they always choose Jason Hayward or David Peralta or even a Trace Thompson over the rookies. And every time their young players go through a 36-game patch like James Outman, you show no confidence in him. You send him back to the minor leagues. that destroys guys' confidence. They don't play comfortable. They don't play loose. They don't play like they have any kind of window to struggle. And so you don't see the real player that they can become. Michael Busch is that type of example of the type of, if you give him, a full year or whatever of major league at bats and you evaluate him over the 162, we'll know at that point. So the issue with the Dodgers and their position players, just look at Gavin Stone the first time up. Look at Ryan Pepio. It happens with pitchers too. The difference is in the pitching side, the Dodgers make so many pitching moves that eventually these pitchers are going to get another shot to do it again. But like Miguel Vargas, he got his shot, and now he's not getting another shot again. Now, I know he's in the major leagues, but he is in no way, shape, or form working towards a starting position in the outfield right now. At least it doesn't feel like that. And it's been a long time since then. So the problem is that these position players have too much pressure to put on them to produce right away because you're on a roster that is in win now mode. And because of that, it's hard to feel comfortable. It's hard to get off to a good start. And even if you get off to a good start, you feel like, hey, at my first slump, I'm going to get sent back down to AAA Oklahoma City, so you press.
Yeah, there is a very high bar for this Dodgers club, especially on the offensive side, and it is expected for each one of these guys to be able to meet that bar, to exceed that bar, and we see that a lot for a lot of these veterans, and the Dodgers seem to rely on a lot of those veterans who have cleared the bar in the past and rely on those because they have and are expected to go into the postseason, deep into the postseason, to win the World Series year after year after year. It makes it a little bit more difficult for a lot of these younger guys to get acclimated to the big league level. We've also seen a lot of these position players that have come up through the system get traded and have success in other organizations as well. So I think it's a combination of that. Dodgers always are elite. They always are competitive, which means you're also not getting the number one overall draft pick. So the Adley Rutschman or the Gunnar Henderson, even though he was a number one overall pick. But a lot of these elite type of young players that are drafted early, the Dodgers don't get those guys. They have to go and develop these guys. And you see with a lot of the numbers as far as the guys that get called up to the big leagues, the Dodgers are absolutely there towards the top of producing major league caliber players, whether that be just with the Dodgers or guys that came up through the system that are part of other organizations. So with the Dodgers, it becomes a question of what do you think the best strategy for the Dodgers is. Right now, the Dodgers are giving a guy like an Andy Pages a very significant everyday run time that I think is good for a lot of these guys to get consistent everyday at-bats, to learn to adapt. And I hope Andy Pages is able to put all the pieces together because I still believe in the type of player that he is. Not every single prospect gets that type of opportunity because the roles that the Dodgers have available with the elite type of talent and the offensive side is very much limited. There's not as many injuries on the offensive side as there's.
You know how many times I've heard Sin Pages down the last 3 weeks?
Oh, I know.
I've heard it over and over and over. Sin Pages down. Sin Pages down. That right there just goes to show you why the Dodgers don't incorporate rookies very well. Because as talented as Pages is, as good of a start as he got off to, the first time he started struggling, it was Sin Pages down, right?
And I get it. Andy Pages has been struggling over the past couple of weeks. I still want to see him walk a lot more, and I think this is unusual given his track record in the minor leagues that he's walking as little, which is providing a little bit more inconsistencies. He's also swinging and missing quite a bit. I still want Andy Pages to get those opportunities because I still believe the talent is there. And I think the only way to achieve that bar of excellence and to reach that bar of excellence for a lot of these younger guys is to get consistent run time, to learn and adapt at the big league level. And you're not going to have success, especially with younger guys, every single time, but it is through those fights, through those struggles that you're able to learn, that you're able to adapt, and that you're able to prevail as a big league player. Every single guy that comes across Major League Baseball starts off as a rookie and starts off likely with a lot of these struggles. So in order to get and find those guys that are going to be consistent guys for the long term, you have to endure with them through the struggles, which with the bar of excellence, with the high bar that the Dodgers and Dodgers fans rightfully set the team, it doesn't always produce the best environment for these younger hitters to succeed with as good of an organization as this Dodgers is. That could be one of the reasons, could call an excuse, could be one of the reasons why the Dodgers, in some people's eyes, haven't produced as many mainstay offensive pieces for this organization that have stuck in this organization.
Hey, we have a question from Kenny Chung wondering how Outman is doing. Any news on him? He went 0 for 4 last night. He had a good weekend. So, hey, there's some signs to where he's starting to snap out of it a little bit, but it's still inconsistent. Also, we have from Jerry Hunter, any word on Bobby Miller's return? He threw for Rancho over the weekend, went 3 innings, gave up a couple of runs. I think he's probably going to have 2 more rehab starts. That's not official. I think that's what Mike Linskog said, the play-by-play voice for the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. Don't know exactly where those are going to be. And then I think after those 2 starts, we'll start seeing him incorporated in. So I think we're closer than we are farther away from Bobby Miller. Yeah, so Outman is 27 years old. People forget that Lux missed last year, as some of the comments that we're saying that we're getting here. Okay, Hep C said the Dodgers don't draft a pitcher or catcher with the 23rd pick this year. I'm going to be sick. Praying for high school shortstop or outfield prospect. No college guys. It seems like the ones Dodgers take are capped. Lux, hey, BC right here says Lux is hitting above the league average for over a month now, and he's playing great defense.
He is playing really good defense. I don't know the exact numbers as far as the sample size that you're looking at for Gavin Lux. I know he has performed a lot better, especially during the month of May, getting a little bit closer to that league average mark, which is a really good sign, especially with the slow start that Gavin Lux had. So continue to be patient with him, and perhaps it's going to be something that's going to be really solid for the Dodgers going in the future. I know a lot of people look at the overall statistics and make a judgment on that. Perhaps looking at what he has been during the last month is going to be the better indicator of what he's going to be going forward, and perhaps that is something to look at for several of these guys who went off and had some slow starts but have been a little bit more effective as of late.
Yeah, Alex said Bush is also limited defensively, and I would totally disagree with that. He grew up a shortstop. He was an all-state shortstop in Minnesota. He was the quarterback on his football team. He was a hockey player. He moved to first base because he wanted to start as a true freshman at North Carolina. And North Carolina, Mike Fox has a unbelievable team there. So you just go play wherever there's an open position, right? So he moved to first base, and he started raking so much that they just kept him there, right? And actually, Tom Holliday, who I just interviewed for my O-State Daily site, just on Monday I interviewed him. Tom Holliday was actually Michael Bush's coach in the Cape Cod and moved Michael Bush to second base. And Tom Holliday would tell you can play Michael Bush anywhere on the infield, and he'll be just fine. He's a way better athlete than what he's given credit for. He has a better arm than what he's given credit for. The pigeonhole to first base, second base was a narrative that was created by the Dodgers.
Yeah, it obviously Michael Bush is on the Chicago Cubs right now. Wish him the best success. I don't have a huge evaluation on him defensively. I know offensively he has, and I think is going to continue to rake. I wish him the best of luck for Chicago. Also, the Dodgers got a couple of really cool pieces in Jackson Ferris and Zaire Hope for him. So hopefully it's a good trade on both sides for them. And I think with Michael Bush, he wasn't going to have an opportunity for this Dodgers, so I'm glad the Dodgers did right by Michael Bush and gave him an opportunity.
Absolutely. Hey, how happy are you that Angel Hernandez is out of baseball? Yeah, okay, so there needs to be a merit system, and there needs to be some kind of accountability, and there needs to be all of that based on attitude and give a crap. It just seemed like Angel Hernandez, I don't know, I wasn't a big favorite of his.
Yeah, I can say confidently that I'm not the biggest Angel Hernandez fans as we hear the Dodgers dogs in the background rejoicing or crying, whatever you want to make it out for, over the news that Angel Hernandez isn't going to be umpiring in Major League Baseball, retiring early. I think it is a good thing for Major League Baseball because I want accountability and I want the right calls if you are an umpire, which is why the Major League Baseball is looking for automatic ball strike system or the challenge system. That's why they're looking into that. They're looking, I believe, for hopefully a little bit more accountability and just the correct calls. That seemed to be something where Angel Hernandez, there was a lot of calls that were missed, and especially with the knowing whether it was a ball or a strike on TV or just seeing a lot of different elements and just the way he handled himself just rubbed people the wrong way, to say the least. So happy retirement for him. I think this is going to be good for the game of baseball.
Hey, you ready to go take a trip down the farm?
Absolutely.
All right, this is Peyton Martin right here, man, and Peyton Martin's 17th rounder. By the way, want to make sure that you stay tuned. As you can hear, my Dodgers dog, she's just about ready for us to go on a walk right here. This is Vivian that you're hearing in the background here. She's ready for Daddy to be done, but hey, we still got a little bit to go. Hang around because we have a great down the farm where you're seeing Peyton Martin here. Also going to have Diego Cartaya. We're going to have Dalton Rushing. We're going to have Jose Ramos, Hyunil Choy. So we have a great down on the farm. Hey, this is Peyton Martin right here. Peyton Martin, a 17th rounder out of high school, and he was found by Jonah Rosenthal, a guy that has hit, I believe, 99. I believe it's 99. It's at least 98. A guy that's really worked on his pitch mix. He got injured about halfway through last year, had to shut it down. Really excited about this year. Results so far have been kind of, okay. He's given up a run or two each game, but hey, this is a guy that is full of electricity, Peyton Martin.
Yeah, the stuff is absolutely unbelievable. And you're just looking at some of the elite stuff, the pitch mix that he's able to go with. You see the swing and miss that he's able to generate right there. Peyton Martin with that darting pitch out of the zone, moving away from right-handed hitters. He's going to generate a lot of strikeouts. And to this point, he's generating about 27% strikeouts. I think that's going to get even better as he gets fully back into swinging of things. Started a little bit late at this season, missed some time last season. Peyton Martin is an absolutely elite talent within this Dodgers system, very highly ranked within this Dodgers system as well, and absolutely well-deserved, an absolute steal for the Dodgers in the late round pick. Peyton Martin is going to go out there and absolutely shove. Good to see him back healthy and pitching for the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. I think the results are going to continue to follow going forward.
Yeah, four-seam, slider, and then they added kind of a split change type of pitch to him this year. So he's incorporating that in, and I'm sure that's an adjustment period for him. Haven't talked to him in about a month or so. You see that tight little slider for him. So a big pitch mix for him. Very excited to watch him come through the system. Another guy in Rancho that's bounced back and forth. This is actually him when he is with you there at Great Lakes. Jordan Thompson. Jordan Thompson, quietly, Austin, has been a really, really, really good offensive player, especially from the slugging side. He's up there at the top as far as home runs. In the Cal League, he's hit a bunch of doubles. His OPS numbers look great. So Jordan Thompson, a young man that was drafted last summer out of LSU, having a really nice year.
Yeah, one of those later round picks, kind of a steal for the Dodgers to get a talent like Jordan Thompson in that draft. He absolutely is going out there and performing incredibly well in both his week and a half or so that he had at the beginning of the season with Great Lakes and the rest of the time with Rancho Cucamonga, going out there and absolutely performing really, really well. 134 WRC plus on the season. He's walking quite a bit as well. Going out there, slugging quite a bit, 233 ISO. Jordan Thompson is just a really good, gritty baseball player. He's going to hit the ball to the opposite field gaps with power quite a bit too. It's not just the pull side slug that he has. JT, really good baseball player up the middle defensively. And as you can see with some of the opposite right center field gap type of power that he has, Jordan Thompson is a really good baseball player.
Absolutely he is. And he's kind of that shortstop type player, type guy that can play a little bit everywhere. He's that guy that the Dodgers really like because, hey, you can just kind of put them in there and plug them in there at different positions and figure out as you go where you want him to end up. Hey, here's another guy out of the University of Virginia. Imagine having Jake Geloff, Chris Newell, and Brandon Neek on the same team. This is left-handed reliever with Great Lakes as we move up to the high A level. Brandon Neek, talk about him. You've seen him a couple of times.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple of times, and obviously past couple of games with Great Lakes, there hasn't been a whole lot of highlights, especially on the offensive side. One of the guys that came up there, especially middle relief during the game, was Brandon Neek, and he goes out there left-handed arm out of the bullpen, and he does a really good job, really unique with his approach, just going out there, able to dart down and away to some of those right-handed hitters, and has been able to get a decent amount of swing and miss as well to this point of the season. There has been a couple of starts where it hasn't completely been there. However, during the other times, he has been fairly consistent as well. Brandon Neek has been really solid out of the bullpen for the Great Lakes Loons, and especially when he gets it right, when he's keeping it in the zone, he can be a really good, solid left-handed pitcher. And as you mentioned, him with some of those other players on the team, that's a really good team. There's a lot of really good baseball that happens at the college level in Virginia.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hey, this is another guy I really like. I just like his windup. I like his competitive nature. I like the upward trend he's on and the arc he's on. Lucas Webb.
Oh, Lucas Webb is unbelievable with what he's able to do. You're talking about a late inning type of pitcher and has been this entire season for Great Lakes. I remember first game of the season, the game that went into extra innings, which the Loons walked it off with Noah Miller. He went out there and pitched, I believe, 3 scoreless innings, which is unique from a guy that normally is more of a 1-inning type of relief pitcher. Today, during his performance, late relief, Loons were down by 2, came in 2 innings, 5 strikeouts, didn't give up a single earned run, just went out there and absolutely shoved. And you can see the attitude that he pitches with. He pitches like he is absolutely on fire. To this point of the season, putting up incredible numbers, ERA, the expected FIP and FIP, the Sierra numbers, doing some of the calculations myself, are absolutely there, getting a ton of swing and miss. I've loved the confidence that Lucas Webb goes out there and pitches with. And he pitches with that confidence, and it's absolutely well-deserved because he is very, very good, attacks hitters, and Lucas Webb has been one of the most impressive relief pitchers that I've seen at the Great Lakes level this season. And just to see even the improvements that he's had from last season, very, very impressive. Stuff is absolutely nasty.
I would totally agree with that. So Lucas Webb, a young man out of Canada, he went to UL Monroe. He has done a really, really, really nice job. Okay, let's move up to the Double-A level. This one's going to be a lot of fun. This one actually happened. This is going to be action from Monday night's games and Memorial Night, where they had a huge crowd in T-Town. It was Monday night in the big town, and this is Diego Cartaya. What I like about that is he got to the inside pitch, and he pulled it. That's the one that, in my opinion, that he needs to show consistency over and over with. Now, the numbers don't look good, so don't evaluate it with overall numbers. You got to evaluate it based on moving forward. Are there signs that are showing that he might regain some of his offensive prowess? You mentioned that the WRC plus numbers look good, so Diego Cartaya.
Yeah, the numbers aren't terrible for Diego Cartaya this season. He has right now a 91 WRC plus, which is a little bit below league average, but not too terribly below league average. He's walking quite a bit. Strikeouts are a little bit high at about 28%, but you're seeing some of these signs. You're seeing him start to get a little bit more comfortable at the Double-A level, especially he had, I think, a fast start, or at least for a good first couple of games. Then there was a little bit of a slump. Now you're starting to see him really come around and be a really good force for this Tulsa Drillers team that is starting to gain a little bit of steam. They're winning right now 2-1, and Diego Cartaya has played a really key part of that. You're seeing him be able to pull some of those pitches, but not exclusively rely on pulling the ball just for home runs. Diego Cartaya, still a really good player, really good prospect, and I know a lot of people are concerned about him. I think he is still a ton of talent. I think there's still a lot of talent in Diego Cartaya, and he is working incredibly hard to try to do stuff like that, hit the ball in the opposite field for a base hit and get an RBI and extend the game. Diego Cartaya is still a really good baseball player.
Another guy in Diego Cartaya is kind of his same shoes in the sense that he has like unbelievable talent and has just quite frankly struggled this year. And we mentioned coming into the offseason, this actually is his video from Monday night, that he's got to improve the bat-to-ball skills and cut down the strikeouts. He leads the Texas League in strikeouts, but we know how much talent Jose Ramos has.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what he's able to do going forward. Obviously, to this point of the season, 2 months into the season, the strikeouts are still absolutely there, and they're still way too high for Jose Ramos. I think he'd be probably the first person to tell you that the power is still there. The tools are very much still there. You can see the power that he has. It's absolutely evident, and he's able to hit the ball a mile. He's able to play a lot defensively. A lot of the tools are still there. You're still looking for some of those signs for him to be able to hit for more consistency. And it's good to see him have those types of performances that he had on Monday, just to get a little bit of that consistency back. Looking for some of those strikeout numbers to come down. If they do, which that's not a guarantee because he is striking out at a 40% clip right now. If the strikeouts come down, the talent is absolutely there, and there can be a little bit more consistency, and the tools that have always been present for Jose Ramos can shine. So still looking for those strikeout numbers to come down, though.
Absolutely. So Jose Ramos, just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I'm just telling you, this guy doesn't have a little bit of talent. This guy has some of the best talent of any prospect in the game, and we're just kind of keep. I mentioned this in the last time we talked about him. You just keep throwing them out there, and you just keep waiting for all of the holes kind of to close up, because when they do, you can see just how dynamic he is. How about this guy right here? Cut, pow, Dalton Rushing with a nice single. What you're also getting ready to see here is a grand slam. He loves it whenever the crowd is big. Watch this, 3, 2, 1, lift off to right field. And, you know, that ball – he kind of hit it, and you're like, okay, yeah, and then all of a sudden he just keeps carrying and carrying and carrying. This dude, man, his ball carry like WillSmith when he hits it, even like his foul balls, they carry into the stands when you think like the first baseman's going to catch it. This guy's ball just keeps going.
Rush is absolutely legit. The power is there. The big time moments are there. The game is tied on Memorial Day. You have a huge crowd out there in Tulsa. Bases are loaded. He goes up there and hits a grand slam and sends the crowd. It ended up being one of the game's hits. Produced a lot of RBIs. Dalton Rushing is going to be a run-producing machine. He's very consistent at the plate, too, with a lot of his numbers, what he is able to do, even with the type of player, with the power type of player. He consistently is able to produce like a 140-ish WRC+, 143 right now, with high walks and not a lot of strikeouts at only 18.5%, which for the type of player that he is, with the power that he's able to produce, really good balance between strikeouts and the power production that he has. Dalton Rushing, with him also being able to do this type of production at the catching position.
Yeah, right.
You don't see this type of player a whole lot. Rush is going to be an absolute force for this Dodgers team. He's also going to be one that teams are going to be looking at, and for very good reason, because Rush is an absolutely incredible talent, clutch in big moments, run producer. Keep an eye out for Rush. He continues to produce at the minor league level, and that adjustment from high A to double A doesn't seem to phase Dalton Rushing.
Hey, we didn't have him on the docket tonight, but because we have the best crowd in baseball, we have a conversation about Alex Freeland. We're going to go ahead and throw him on the docket. Then our last guy we're going to move up to AAA is going to be Yuniel Choy. Alex Freeland, hey, I've had a couple of questions. Hey, what's going on with Alex Freeland? guys, just go back to any of our down in the farms last year. We told you how good this guy was. And in the minor leagues, it's a process. He was dealing with some injuries, all this kind of deal, trying to get comfortable. We told you last year the amount of talent this guy has and that it's eventually going to show up. And lo and behold, Alex Freeland, he is showing his talent this year and having just a tremendous year.
Oh, Alex Freeland is absolutely unbelievable. And this type of player was in there in Great Lakes last season. It didn't always show up. He struck out quite a bit at Great Lakes last season, but this type of talent was absolutely there. And especially if you get to know some of the people around Alex Freeland, like I had the chance to interact with in Fort Wayne, the work ethic that Alex Freeland has is unbelievable. He is very adamant about his craft and being the best type of player that he possibly can be. And to this point in the season, Alex Freeland is one of, if not the absolute most valuable player, or most productive, I should say, player in all of minor league baseball. So one of the statistics that I use quite a bit when evaluating players and whether they're productive or not at the minor league level is weighted runs above average, WRAA. And that is the cumulative statistic for WRC plus. So WRC plus, the one downside about that is, let's say that a person has 10 at-bats and a person has 500 at-bats, and they have the exact same WRC plus. By just looking at that number, you wouldn't be able to tell which one is better, which if you do it over 500 at-bats, that's better than doing it just over 10 at-bats. Alex Freeland, weighted runs above average. He is at 23.7. That is first, not just in the Dodgers organization, that is first in all of minor league baseball. All minor league hitters, he is first in weighted runs above average, meaning that cumulatively with what he's been able to produce, he has been the absolute best. It is because he is walking a ton, not striking out a whole lot, and hitting for a lot of power, smooth defensively with what he's able to do at second base, at third base. He's able to do it there, getting a lot of run time at the shortstop position at the Tulsa level, which he is very good defensively at shortstop there. Alex Freeland is an absolute talent, and he has just burst onto the scene. And it's a reminder that these games, the minor league levels, matter, and not always to look just at the prospect list, because right now I don't believe Alex Freeland is on much or any of the prospect list, yet he has been perhaps the best player in minor league baseball. Alex Freeland is absolutely unbelievable. The competitive nature is there. And now that he's back with TY, he's back with a lot of the team that was the Great Lakes Loons in 2023. That competitive spirit that absolutely was there to the start of the season in Great Lakes is just going to continue. I couldn't be happier for Alex Freeland and what he's been able to do so far.
I lied because we have a guy having a really good outing tonight. We're going to go ahead and cover him, and I know you know a lot about him. Jared Karros. Jared Karros is having a fantastic year. Hey, that bump up to Double-A, it's a tricky one, right? We talk about, especially for pitchers, and so sometimes it takes a minute to get adjusted. He's definitely in that process, but Jared Karros, man, you talk about it kind of on the pitcher side, like Alex Freeland, a guy that may not be like top 2 or 3 in the prospects list, but could warrant that type of recognition with the improvement and how good he has been. Jared Karros is having a great year, and he's really good.
Jared Karros is unbelievable with what he was able to do at High A Great Lakes, not just at the end of last season, which he came up there and just was an absolute force throughout the entire postseason. He's one of the reasons why the Loons made it to the Midwest League Championship, both with defeating West Michigan at the end of the regular season and with eliminating the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. Jared Karros came out of the season. He thought he was good in 2023. He just went out there and performed beyond comparison well in 2024 to start the season. You can see the big breaking ball that he has. It is like a lollipop dropping out of the sky, and the fastball, he was making hitters just so uncomfortable at the High A level. Moved up to Double-A. First couple of starts were a little bit shaky. Tonight, he had a really good, solid performance, right on character with Jared Karros. He is a professional pitcher. He's got a great mix, and he's also one of those guys that is coming up, that is rising and performing so incredibly well. I think the future is so bright for Jared Karros going forward, and another one of those guys, not always the highest, not the highest named prospect or on everybody's big board as far as lists. I actually don't even know if he's on any of these lists. He just goes out there and performs. And right now, tonight, pitched at 5-6 innings of 1-run ball. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's been on the TV over to my right. I just haven't had a chance to be watching it because of the show. Jared Karros went out there, and the results were there. Got to see a lot of his start. I think I saw 4 of his starts, including this one against Wisconsin, quite a bit. Jared Karros is unbelievable from at the games and on TV. The results are absolutely there.
Yeah, we have a question, ETA, for Alex Freeland. And again, whenever you ask questions like that you got to ask, for most organizations, the natural progression would be he's probably going to finish the rest of this year in Tulsa, probably start next year in Oklahoma City, maybe do the Austin Gothier thing, start in Tulsa, real quickly go up to Oklahoma City, and then knock on the door. So I think for most organizations, his ETA would probably be next year. For the Dodgers, though, there's just so few opportunities. It will be hard to it's hard to predict those kind of things. But let's hope that it's next year. I think you'll be ready to ETA next year. I know we have a comment that Trey Sweeney has 2 home runs for Oklahoma City. That gives him 3 in 2 days. I will warn you, I don't cover offense when Oklahoma City's in Albuquerque, and that is because those scores are always like 30 runs a game. It's just that altitude is crazy there. So take the I love Trey Sweeney, but whenever you say a guy hits home runs here or there at Albuquerque, I always take that with a grain of salt. So we're not going to cover anything offensively that's happening in Albuquerque this week as far as down the farm, because I don't feel like it has any kind of evaluative punch to it behind it, because the altitude I think affects that. So this is Hyunil Choi. This is his outing from last night. Yes?
I was just going to make a couple more points with Alex Freeland before we move on to Choy. One, I also forgot to mention, he has 13 stolen bases, stole 31 last year.
Yes.
Only 1 caught stealing this year. That is part of Alex Freeland's game that gets completely under the radar with the offensive production that he has. Also, just a little bit of note with Alex Freeland, Rule 5 draft eligible, not after this season, after the 2025 season. Yep. So he won't be needing to be added to the 40-man roster after this season, so that could delay some of his start time just with the Dodgers and their 40-man roster crunch that they have. I think he's going to spend a lot of time at Tulsa this season going forward, unless he absolutely shoves and the Dodgers have no choice but to pull him at the Oklahoma City level. 2025 would probably be the earliest that you could see an Alex Freeland at the big league level. But back to Hyunil Choi, who absolutely has earned to be covered, and one of those guys that you could be looking out for, as we mentioned earlier in the show, potentially getting opportunities at major league playing time, whether that be this year or in future years, because he's really good.
Yeah, and man, I tell you what, this outing right here is we said we don't cover the offense in Albuquerque, which means whenever you go 5 1/3 innings, just 3 hits, just 1 run, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, you've done something in Albuquerque, because it's not easy to do that as a pitcher. Choi has an ERA of just 3.34 at the AAA level, 5-pitch mix working. His cutter was his most used and most effective pitch last night. Velo 91-93. He's not a velo guy, though. He's the guy that moves the ball. He's the guy that locates, a professional pitch sequencer, if you will. So Hyunil Choi is a guy that is very kind of the Landon Knack, if you will, that type of pitcher in terms of pitchability.
Yeah, that is what you can kind of imagine if you're thinking about a Hyunil Choi. He's not going to be the Bobby Miller and overpower with the 100-mile-per-hour fastball, but he learns and finds ways to pitch to guys and use sequencing, use unique ways to get hitters out. And as you mentioned, we talked about earlier in the show with the offensive output with Albuquerque, the reverse side with him being able to pitch incredibly well in that type of environment, and especially for Choi, who hasn't spent a whole lot of time at the AA Tulsa level, spent all of last year with Great Lakes. comes up this season, has spent some time with Tulsa, some time with Oklahoma City. He's kind of bouncing back and forth between the two to do this against AAA hitters in an environment that should not be favorable to pitchers at all, and go out there and perform speaks so incredibly well with what he was able to do. And Choy is a very good pitcher. And that doesn't just mean with the effective stuff that he has, but he can actually pitch. He knows the art of pitching really, really well. So Choy, I think he's going to smell a big league future in his career.
Yeah, and I want to show you, let me slow this down. Jay just brought up a great point that Hyunil Choi, for only being 91 to 93, uses the top of the zone really well. Let me show you why. See that release point right there? Let me back that up. See how low this release point is? So right there. Okay, well, if I could back that up and slow that down just a touch. Okay, right there. See that release point? That's a really, really, really low release point. So what's going to happen with this ball, this is the Gus Varland effect. That ball is going to ride and run. So even though it's 91, 93, because it's coming in on the hands, it's going to give a lot faster effective velocity to a right-hander because it's coming out low, which is giving it more of a rise to it and a run in on a right-hander. So that's a great observation, Jay. Although he doesn't throw that hard, he is able to use the top of the zone, and that's because of the lower release slot. And we also have a comment about Jared Karros and his 12-6 curveball. Hey, Alex, thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for all the videos. Love the content. Well, we love it whenever you show up. Hey, great catch there, Jay. That's why that Choy is able to use the top of the zone, is because of the lower release point. We also have a comment about Jared Karros' 12-6 curveball. And hey, actually the reason why he has that 12-6 curveball and why it has so much bite to it is because he actually spikes it. And Peter Hubeck, who also spikes his curveball, him and Peter Hubeck are really good friends, and they kind of went back and forth, and Peter got him to spike his curveball. And whenever you spike it like that, that's going to make that downward 12-6 movement bite just that much more. So, hey, it's been a great show tonight. This has been just absolutely awesome. Hey, by the way, our conversation and our crowd grows as the Down on the Farm comes on, and so obviously fans are starting to catch on. They're starting to ask questions, and that is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is a lot of fun. I think that is some of the, if not the most fun that Casey and I have, is talking about the Down on the Farm stuff. So we are very grateful for you guys. Very grateful for Alex for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Yes. Just the support that you have for this channel. We love having that interaction. I think having you be part of the chat is the reason why we're able to produce this type of content, is because of the interaction, because of the different viewpoints, the different growth that we're able to have from different people within the Dodgers community. A lot of different perspectives, very good conversation, very good discussion, very much appreciative for the super chat, and very much appreciative for just being able to have baseball, being able to watch all, not just the Dodgers, but also Down on the Farm as well, and to see some of the breakouts in a lot of these guys, as we mentioned, with a Jared Karros, with an Alex Freeland, with a Hyunil Choi, with a Jordan Thompson, with a Brandon Neek, with all of these different guys. There's a lot of great baseball that is happening with the Dodgers, and it's important to pay attention to all these guys, because guys that you might not expect to break out can suddenly break out and be really good, really solid players, to where you're looking at maybe the offensive performer that you were expecting to be part of this Dodgers future. Maybe it's not him. Maybe it turns out to be a guy like an Austin Gauthier, an undrafted free agent that the Dodgers picked up and going out there producing. Or a Jack Dreyer, absolutely, and going out there, and he's pitching really well, and going out there and being a force of the bullpen. There can be a lot of unexpected twists and turns that the game of baseball presents, and that makes it unpredictable. That makes it fun to watch and fun to follow if you're a fan of the Dodgers. So a lot of these guys, keep following along with them. Hopefully, with the first half kind of winding down, we can see some of these teams make a playoff spurt. Hopefully the Loons can fight back and regain some ground on Lake County and make a playoff spot. We'll have to wait and see what happens, though.
Absolutely. We also have a couple more questions before we get out of here. Where can you watch the affiliates? If you go this year, they added actually like on a Roku or any kind of streaming device. If you have the MLB app, you can watch all the affiliates on your big screen TV through a Roku or an Apple TV or a Fire Stick or whatever. You can do it there, or on any mobile device. You can download the MILB app, and you can pay for that. If you buy the MLB app, then the MILB TV comes with it, or you can get on your computer and log into MILB.TV. So you can do that. You can either do it on your streaming device, on your computer through MILB.TV, or the MILB app on any of your streaming devices. And we also have the last question here of the night before we get out of here. Other positions that Dalton Rushing can play. We know he can play first base because he played behind Henry Davis at Louisville, who was not a first-round draft pick, the first pick of the draft out of Louisville. And so he was a catcher. So Dalton Rushing really wasn't the everyday catcher at Louisville until his last year there. And so he played mostly first base until then. So we know he can play first base. But I think, too, just with the type of athlete he is, he's a great athlete. Just listen to Dennis Higgins talk about how good of an athlete he is. I think he could fairly easily transition over to third base, too.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting, especially if the Dodgers have Dalton Rushing as part of the plan going forward. Obviously, at the major league level, some of the positions are blocked. ShoheiOhtani is going to be the designated hitter for the next decade. Freddie Freeman's going to be the first baseman for the next couple of years. WillSmith is going to be the catcher for the next decade, or at least be in that catching position for the next couple of seasons, which presents some limited opportunities. If you are Dalton Rushing, you're seeing some of your positions be blocked, which could, if the Dodgers wanted to do so, create opportunities to provide some additional positional versatility for Dalton Rushing. Perhaps he still gets a lot of opportunities behind the plate because that is still incredibly valuable. And having WillSmith and Dalton Rushing be your two catchers would be great. But you also want Dalton Rushing in the lineup more than just once a week or twice a week. And in order to find ways to get him on the field, if you have plans for him to be on the field for the Dodgers in the future, there might need to be, and there probably is going to have to be, some additional positional versatility. I think third base could be one of those options, especially with Max Muncy as he gets older, as he is not locked into as long of a contract. Perhaps there's going to be an opening for third base. And if Dalton Rushing is able to do that while also filling in for catcher days for WillSmith as needed, or if Freddie Freeman, as he gets older, needs a day off, filling in for first base, positional versatility has been, or at least was in 2023 at the Great Lakes level, a priority for the Dodgers, and could be, especially as the automatic balls and strikes comes into play, and where some of that pitch framing might not have as much of an emphasis. You could have some of that positional versatility take a big part in the role for the Dodgers, for Major League Baseball in general, and getting Dalton Rushing some experience over there. If that is part of the future for the Dodgers, could be something that they look into, and might be something that they have to look into. The bat absolutely is going to be there. Finding ways to get him on the field is going to be a question and a good puzzle for the Dodgers to try to put together, especially if he keeps producing to the level that he has.
Okay, man, this has been a lot of fun. We haven't talked to you in a while. It's been great getting to talk to you again, Austin. I've missed getting to do these shows with you, so super glad that you had the time. I hope everything with your family is going at least as good as it possibly can. So final thoughts before we get out of here.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Casey. I love doing this show. I've missed doing this show over the past couple of weeks, just dealing with my family, dealing with the loss. I appreciate the support that Dodgers Daily and the community has. You guys are the absolute best. I can't wait to do this again. And there's going to be a lot of shows like this, and we'll be able to talk a whole bunch of different factors. I'm sure we'll dive into, and I'll have a little bit more time to dive into some trade pieces. If you want to talk trade pieces, if you want to talk more of the minor league system, I've had a lot of chance to watch a lot of the minor league system, especially the Great Lakes level. Just talk about the club in general. Dodgers Daily is the place to be. Casey, you do an absolutely wonderful job here. Even when I'm not able to be on the shows, you and Coach absolutely great. I love being a part of this. Dodgers Daily is the absolute best, and it's because we get to come together and talk Dodgers baseball, this great sport, this great team that we get to follow, that we get to cover, that we get to know a lot of these people. Man, the game of baseball is great. And even when the Loons have lost a couple of games in a row, baseball is still good, and I'm so happy to be a part of this.
Man, you got me fired up. I think we're going to end on that. So, hey, to everybody out there, what a wonderful crowd this was, man. The Down on the Farm was just awesome. The engagement we're starting to get, Austin, is super exciting to me. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. This has been so much fun for Austin and I to get to talk to you about Dodgers baseball. So until next time, we want to say thank you for tuning in, and go Dodgers.